Hello and welcome back to the world of spirit consciousness. We are in the continuation of the book study session, The Astral Body and Other Astral Phenomena. We are in the middle of the 10th module discussing after death life. In this particular subsection, we shall be discussing about how to have a blissful afterlife. So this has again been subdivided into various subparts. A prior awareness of astral life is a key to blissful existence. The kind of physical life that one would have lived to make astral life as a vacation, and about exiting from the astral life. Coming to the first part, how a prior awareness of astral life is the key to blissful existence. So someone who is aware of astral life either by reading or any other means will normally be more or less familiar to it. Thus, he or she won't be lost about what to do with himself or herself on that plane. Someone who has an intelligent understanding of occult teachings of astral life has a huge advantage as known from experience. Even having heard of the astral life and has knowledge of astral life as one of the hypotheses has advantage to a great extent. So a physically deceased person who is aware of the actual situation in astral life has a pleasant life where he or she is at rest and is free from the daily needs like eating and drinking, which add stress to everyday life. In the astral world, a person is free to do as they please and spend time however they like. The ones with less or no knowledge of astral life, when they find themselves in astral life, must review their situation, aim to understand the nature of life, and use it in the best way. They must get in touch with an experienced friend. This would also be really helpful. As we can note, in many situations, the religions have not taught their followers what to look forward to and how to survive on the astral plane as they should have. Hence, a detailed explanation is required about the new world in which people will find themselves. However, even after death, only some achieve an intelligent understanding on the truth of evolution. Based on a somewhat understanding of their state, they are aware of how to make the best use of it. At present, a large number of people, living as well as dead, are actively taking care of and helping individuals who died unaware of the actual character of after death life. So, this is done in chapter 28 on invisible helpers, which is the last module that we have. Sadly, just like the ignorant people are hardly ready to be helped by the advice of the wise people on the physical plane, so it is on the astral plane. The doctrine of purgatory, followed by the Roman Catholic Church, is closer to the real knowledge of the astral because its staunch followers are aware that the condition in which they are after death is only temporary. They must aim to come out of this state as soon as possible by an intense spiritual aspiration. They must endure the suffering which they may have to go through, as it is important to shed the shortcomings in their nature before they can move towards a higher and brighter place. So, the kind of physical life that makes astral life a vacation. So, the period of after death life passed on the astral plane is one of retirement back to the ego. So, in the later half of life, a person must be less inclined towards physical interests. In the same way, a person must be less attentive towards the lower astral matter, which make up the counterparts of physical objects, and more towards the higher matter, which make up desire and thought forms. More than a movement in space, it is about moving his or her focus of interest. Therefore, eventually the physical counterpart left behind by him or her becomes hazy and becomes more alive in a world of thought. The feelings and wishes still continue. Since the astral matter easily pays heed to the thoughts and desires, the thought form surrounding the individual will majorly be an expression of his or her own emotions. The nature of these emotions will significantly decide if the person's life is a happy or uncomfortable one. So, exiting from the astral life. So, over a process, this is subdivided into various parts. We'll have an overview of a process of gradual disintegration in which we will also see an example. The coarse matter from the previous lives impacting the current astral life, the rapid exit from the astral plane, and how grieving for the dead hurts the dead. So, a quick overview based on what we have seen. As soon as the physical body dies, the astral body is freed. From the consciousness point of view, the kama manas is set free. From this, the lower manas part, which is not inextricably entangled with kama, eventually becomes free and takes with it the experience which is eligible to be absorbed by the higher mental body. In the meantime, the part of the lower manas which is still entangled with the kama gives a muddled up consciousness to the astral body and incoherent, broken memory of the life which just got over. So, broadly, when the astral body loses attraction to one level, a major part of its coarse particles is shed down. The astral body is then somewhat in harmony with the higher existence. The particle's gravity is constantly becoming lesser, so it constantly rises from the heavier to the lighter strata and poses only when it is temporarily balanced. An astral body can exist on a subplane only if its particles are responsive to the particles of that particular subplane. Hence, to be able to see accurately on the astral plane means to have all the astral particles developed to be responsive to all the subplanes so that they can be seen at the same time. So we'll quickly have an example of a pure soul in astral plane. Someone who has lived a pure life and strongly intends to be selfless and spiritual won't have attractions on the astral plane. Their astral body, if left alone, will have hardly anything to keep them on the astral plane or keep them active on the relatively short span of their stay there. Such a person has overcome the earthly emotions during physical lifetime and has channeled the will towards the higher influences and has very little lower energies to resolve on the astral plane. Such a person stays in the plane for a very short span with a half hazy consciousness till they fall into a sleep wherein the higher principles release themselves from the astral body and enter the peaceful heaven world. So, to explain in technical terms, the manas has cleansed the intertwined karma during the physical life. Therefore, in after death life, only the residual karma remains. This karma can be effortlessly cleared by the withdrawing ego. This is why such an individual will have little consciousness on the astral plane. So, coarse matter from the previous lives can also impact the current astral life. So, people can probably have a great amount of coarse astral matter in their astral matter due to previous births. A good amount of coarse matter still remains even though it has not been awakened and has fallen out to be replaced by finer particles due to a good upbringing and behavior. As a result, they would have to stay on the lower levels till the time all the coarse particles wear off. Since the coarse particles are not active, there would be scant consciousness during the stay on the astral plane. They will be practically asleep through their stint in the astral plane. So rapid exit from the astral plane. So there is a critical point between every pair of substates of matter. So let's explain what this critical point between every substate of matter means. So ice can be brought to the exact point of the least heat, which will melt it, and water can be brought to the point of least heat, after which it can become vapor. Similarly, each substate of astral matter can be brought to the point of fineness, wherein adding more fineness will change it to the higher substate. If an individual purifies his or her substates of matter in the astral matter to the highest possible extent of fineness, so as soon as it comes in contact with the degenerating force, its cohesion breaks and it goes back to its original position. This action frees the person to move quickly into the next higher subplanes and almost immediately into the higher state of mental world. Simply having an intellectual understanding of the astral life and overall theosophical truths are extremely helpful to people in their after-death life. After death, it is very essential for a person to understand quickly and distinctly that she or he is withdrawing towards the ego. Hence, they must not think about physical matters, rather think about spiritual matters which will keep him or her occupied when passing from the astral plane into the mental plane in the due course of time. Embracing this viewpoint will make the natural disintegration of the astral body much easier rather than pointlessly delaying themselves on the lower astral planes. Sadly, a lot of people tend to hold on desperately to earthly desires instead of higher thoughts. Eventually, in their normal path of evolution, they lose connect with the lower desires, but with a lot of unnecessary struggle and agony at each step. This way, they gravely delay their progress towards the higher planes. Possessing a physical corpse greatly helps such unaware individuals who are going in the opposite direction of natural evolution. Cremation of the dead physical body is the best way to prevent this as it ruptures the connection with the physical plane. So having seen about the rapid exit from the astral plane, we will see how grieving for the dead hurts the dead. Usually, normal good people who die naturally are not conscious of anything physical while they pass through the lower levels before awakening to the astral consciousness. However, some of these people may be attracted back into contact with the physical world due to a severe concern for someone from the physical world or the grief of close ones. The inclination to go downwards to the earth plane increases each time, and a person is prone to make efforts of will in that direction. So, for sometimes, the individual's ability to see things see physical things will become better, but then it will start getting lesser, and she or he will be in mental pain to see that ability slowly fading. So when people deeply grieve for the deceased, they cause a lot of pointless pain to themselves and gravely harm those they are grieving for. A person is close to physical influences throughout their long or short astral life. In the above mentioned situations, the intense grief or the close ones on earth will send vibrations to the deceased astral body and activate his or her lower manas. The person awakened from the sleepy astral state into a clear memory of the earth plane and may try to get in touch with physical friends, possibly through a medium. An attempt to communicate thus is followed by extreme agony, and also the natural procedure of the retiring ego is delayed. So, occult teachings don't suggest forgetting the deceased, it rather suggests to remember them with affection because this force, if guided properly, will help the deceased enormously in advancing towards the heaven world, and his passage through the intermediate world can be of real value to the deceased. Mourning or grieving is pointless and also dangerous. The Shraddh in Hindus and the Catholic Church prayers are ceremonies recommended due to this true need. Such ceremonies, along with prayers, create elementals which hit against the Kamalokic entity's astral body and help the disintegration of it, and hence hasten advancement to the astral world. When a mass is held with the fixed intention of helping the deceased, the shower of force will surely help the individuals. The strength of thoughts about them draw them to the church wherein they participate in the ceremonies and enjoy a great part of its results. The priest's effort of will and prayer towards the deceased will direct a stream of force towards them, even if it is unconscious. The sum of sincere general prayers and good wishes to the deceased have an enormous impact, although it is more unclear and less organized than a clear thought. Europe is very obliged to the high religious orders who are dedicated to constantly praying for the faithful deceased through nights and days. So, this brings us to an end of the topic on how to have a blissful afterlife. In the next video, we will be discussing the factors affecting the nature of after death life. Stay tuned.